Hello everyone, welcome to the Go Code Snippets channel. So in today's video we'll be talking about how to host a Go and MongoDB app to Heroku. But before we get into the video, I would like to mention something. So I would like us to do a 10 seconds commercial break. So if you're new to the channel, in the next 10 seconds, hit the subscribe button. So 10 seconds. Okay, great. So if you subscribe, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you do later on in the video. So with that, let's jump into the video. So the prerequisites to this video is, first, you must have an Heroku account, a MongoDB account, and you must have Heroku CLI installed and also Git installed on your system. So basically, this is the app that we'll be running. So what this app does is, basically, let me just run the app so you see what it does in the browser. So I'm serving this app on ports. So I'll just run the app. So in my browser, I'll visit localhost. I'm serving on port 7660. Let me just confirm. I'm not sure. Yeah, port 7660. So this is our app. So it's just like basically a comment section app. So it's just something very basic. So we'll go through the code before we actually deploy it to Heroku. So just for the text, so the person that is commenting is Batman, and whatever is commenting is this dummy text here. So I'll hit the comments button, then I have this by Batman. So basically this is hosted on my MongoDB shell. So if I open Mongo Compass, here I have the database I'm hosting it in and the collection. So I'm hosting it in this collection here. So I'll just simply refresh this. So this is the comment I made just now by Batman. So if I make another comment, it still works. So another comment says Superman. Then it also adds to the comment. So let's just quickly run through the code and see what the code does before we move on and we deploy it to Heroku. So first, this is the basic imports that I'm using, all the imports I'm using, and I have a type comment struct. So my comment has two fields, commenter and the comment, and they are both string types. And this is their business value. So this business value is the way they'll be stored in MongoDB database. Then in my function main, I have my client connection. So everything here is basically connection to my database, and I'm getting my database Go Web Dev and my collection WCT. So when we get to MongoDB at last, we'll also see the same thing also. So I'll see my database Go Web Dev and my collection WCT. Then I'm loading index.html as a template. Then on a / on my default route, if it's a method get, I'll just create a comment variable that will act as a placeholder to hold all the comments. Then I'll just get all the comments from the database. So everything is getting all the comments from the database. Then I'm just passing it to the templates. So when I pass it to the templates, then in the templates, which is my index.html file, once I get the comments, so if there's a data, I'll just range over the data. So each value I'll be getting from this range is just basically each comment. So each comment is a struct with the commenter and the comment. So this is the commenter and the comment. So I'm getting a comment then by the commenter. That's basically what happens when a get method. Then on a post method, I'll create a new comment, then I'll just insert it to the database, and after that I'll just print out the inserted results. So this is kind of MongoDB's feedback on a successful insertion of the data into the collection. Then from there I'll just redirect to this part. Then I'm using HTTP status ceorder. So status ceorder is actually a redirect code, and what status ceorder does is that once it redirects you to the new URL, it actually changes the method automatically to get. So once I redirect to this place, I'm just redirecting to this / our default route. Then I'm changing the method back to get. So you just run this back, which is basically getting all the comments from the database and passing it to the front end. So that's basically what the app does, and we've seen that in action just now. So from there, we'll just move on to deploying to Heroku. So the deploy to Heroku, just of recent, Heroku actually disabled manual deployment from your Heroku dashboard due to some security reasons. I haven't really read the details, and I don't know how everything is, and a lot of people are actually not comfortable with using Heroku CLI. A lot of us are not comfortable with writing commands on the command prompt and all. And command prompt is actually underway. Heroku CLI is actually underway to deploy to Heroku, but A lot of people are not comfortable with it here, so they prefer going manual deployment. But Heroku has now disabled manual deployment due to some security issues. So in this video, we'll just be looking at how to deploy to Heroku with the Heroku CLI. So all this particular object ID that is here is just the results I'm getting, which is just this here, the inserted results. So that's what I'm actually getting here. So that is it. So we have to deploy now to Heroku. So to deploy to Heroku, I first want to connect to MongoDB. So here I'm actually connected to my MongoDB shell, which is basically this here. So I have to change this URI to my MongoDB URI. Now how do I get that? So I'll just go to MongoDB. I'll just go to my I'll go to MongoDB. So this is my MongoDB Atlas free tier account. So if you don't have a MongoDB Atlas account yet, I'll leave a link to the description of this video on how you can actually create a MongoDB account. And if you create one for a start, they actually give you 512 MB of free space, which is free forever, which is enough, more than enough for this particular video. So I'll come to database access and I'll add a new data user. So I don't want to use an existing one. So I'll just come to database access and add a new user. What is it? It's for many years time, I mean, I'll say a broadcast, I won't block you. I don't know what is wrong with my internet. It is slow. For some reason, I don't know. What is happening? For some reason, my internet is. Why is it this slow? So I'll add a new user, new database user. So this database user I'm adding, you don't need to use it. So I'll just call it test user, because if after this video I'm actually deleting this user, so you don't have access to my database. So create your own account and create your own database user. So my password will just be 12345, just for simplicity. And then you leave everything as it is, then add user. So I've added the user now. So from there I'll go back to database. Then from database I'll go to connect. I'll press connect. So for connect, it's going to give me my connection string. So I'm actually connecting my application. So I'll click connect my application. If I'm connecting to MongoDB Compass, which is what I opened earlier, I'll be actually busy connect using MongoDB Compass. But since I'm connecting my application, I'll just click this. So when I click, it's going to give me my connection string, which is basically this. So I'll copy this connection string. When I copy it, I'll go back to my app. Then I'll set an environmental variable. I'll set it as an environmental variable. So I'm using package OS, and I'm setting it as an environmental variable. The reason I'm actually doing this is because I don't want to open my environmental variable, because I have a lot of sensitive information there. So I'll just set it here and I'll call it Mongo test, or I'll say Atlas test URI. My typing is off points this today. I don't know what is happening. Test URI. Then the value will just be what I copied from MongoDB now. So I'll also have to make a few changes. The first one is the username, and the username is test user, which is what I created. And the password is 12345. Yeah, if I'm not wrong. So let me just check again to confirm. So I'll go back to my database access. Yeah, so test user, then the password is 12345. So back to my app, I have this. Then from there, since I'm setting it, I'll just get it again. So this returns an error, which we just throw away. We don't need the error, because normally setup shouldn't actually run into an error if everything goes on fine. So I'll get it back. So I'll just say URI should be equals to os.getEnv. So I'm using getEnv to get it. And what I'm getting is my Atlas URI, which is basically the name. Atlas test URI, which is basically the name that I used to set it. Yes. So from there, I'll just use this Atlas URI. I'm going to use it here as my test URI. So that is the first thing you need to do to connect to MongoDB. So now I'll actually stop the app, go from it, I'll format the code, then I'll run it to see if it's successfully connected to MongoDB. So if everything goes on well, we should connect successfully. Don't buy some data. We want to buy like 50 GB. This slowness is actually due to my internet. It's my internet that is causing all this. Actually, timing out because the internet is not fast enough. Normally, you should connect.
Most likely hack the network. Hey, look at that. Go up, Gary, wait somebody else. Can you imagine?
Okay, let me change my hotspot. Let me just change this to. Great, now it is working, so we are connected now. So everything earlier was just due to slow internet connection. So we are connected, so we'll just simply run the app again and we'll see if it works, if we're able to successfully connect to MongoDB 7660. So we are able to successfully connect. I'll say Batman, then everything I add back. So let me just do Lorem Ipsum, just this alone, then comment. So it actually worked. So our app is working and we successfully connected to MongoDB at last. So if I go back to my database and I check my collections, so browse collections, and I check my web dev. So this is my Go web dev database, then my WCT collection. So I have my documents in there, which is this that I just added. So everything is working fine. So what remains now is deploying to Heroku. So to deploy to Heroku now, the first thing we need to do is I'll come to my Heroku dashboard, which is this, and I'll create a new app. So I'll just click this button, new here, create new app, and I'll give it an app name. So I'll just call it Mongo Test App. I'll just call it this, and I'll create the app. Oh, it is not available. Someone has used this name before. Let me see Mongo, or let me say Heroku Go deploy app. I hope this is not taken. Okay, it is not taken. Fine. So I have this Heroku Go deploy app. That's the name of my app. So I have my app. Now I've created my app. The next thing is, assuming when a manual deploy used to work, I can just simply come to this place and I'll connect my GitHub and everything. But now that is not working, I have to use Heroku Git, which is the CLI tool we'll be using. So I'll just go back to Heroku Git. Then simply, all those need to do is just simply follow this instruction here. And so that the first thing you do is you just go back to the app. Then in my terminal, I'll stop the app. I'll clear out the console. Then in my terminal, the first thing I'll run is, according to this place, the first thing I'll run is Heroku login. So that's the first thing I'll run. So I'll run Heroku login. So I'm trying to log in. It says I should press any key or Q to quit, so I'll just press Y. Then this should open my browser and try to log me into Heroku CLI. Then if I log in, so I'm already logged in. So now that I'm logged in, I'll just simply go back here. So sometimes we actually run into a problem logging in, and the reason is simply because these days you need a token to actually log into Heroku successfully. So to actually get the token, you just go back to your you go to account settings, then you come to application, then you come to create authorization, then you just enter a description for the authorization or whatever it is. Just enter a description for it, so you can call it anything. Let's say my test auth. Then you give it the time you want it to expire in a second. So let's say 60 seconds, that is a minute. Then you create. Then once you create, you'll be given an authentication token. So is that token you're going to use to log in. So to log in with that token, you, instead of running Heroku login, you run Heroku login -I, then to ask for the authentication. So that way you successfully log in. So now that I'm logged in, the next thing I'll just do is simply back to my app again. So I'll first go to my dashboard first, then back to my app, which is this. So I ran Heroku login and I'm logged in successfully. So the next thing is I'll come back to deploy to see how to deploy the app. So the next thing I'm going to run is git init, which is this. So I'll run git. No, instead of running git init, since I already have this particular web app as a repository on GitHub, I don't need to run git init again. But let's say that you don't actually have it as a repository on GitHub. That means you have to run git init. So I'll just keep this particular line. And the next one I'm going to run is just Heroku git remove this. I'll just copy this here. So look at, if you notice, this is my app name here. So that is one thing you should notice. So I'll just go back to, and I'll just paste this here, and I'll do this. So I've actually done that, and everything is fine. So the next thing to do is that before I actually now deploy the app, I'll go back to my Heroku dashboard. Then before I deploy the app, there are two things I need to do. First of all, I'll come to my settings. Then in my settings, I need to add configuration variables. So this configuration variable is just basically the Heroku URI that I actually used that time. So I need to actually add that. So I'll go back to this place, then I'll copy this Atlas URI test. So this is very important. Exactly the way it is written here should be the way you should use it as a configuration variable. I'll set it as the key. Then the value will be the URI that I actually got from Heroku and from MongoDB rather. So I'll copy that also, which is this, Control-C. Then back here, Control-V. Then I'll add it. That's the first thing I need to add. Then the second thing I need to add is actually a port. So I have to add a port variable. So Heroku does not actually work with a default port. So you have to, or Heroku works with a default port rather. So you have to also specify that I'm not using any port apart from the one Heroku specifies. So I'll just do port to be equal to os.getEnv, and I'll say port. And if port equal to this, so I'll just say port should be equal to 7660. That means if I don't have an environmental variable port, I'll just set it to 7660. Then I'll just modify this to be this plus port. So there I have it. So that's the second thing. So that means I need to also set this port environmental variable also. So I'll just simply go back to Heroku also. Then the second one I'm going to do is port. Then the value is 7660, and I'll add it. So that's the second thing I need to do. Then back to my deploy. So I'll go back to deploy. So back in deploy, I've run Heroku login and I've run Heroku git remove -a Heroku go deploy app. So the next thing to run now is the next command, which is git add dot. So I'll just basically run these three apps and these three commands rather: git add dot, git commit, whatever it is, then git push Heroku master. So that's what I'll just do here. So I'll just simply do git add dot, then git commit -m. So I can give it any commit message. I can just say my Heroku MongoDB deploy commit. Then I'll run the last one, which is git push Heroku master. So if git push Heroku master, git push, typo error, not git. So it is not working. The reason is because I'm using the master branch. I'll just simply change it to the main branch. So any of the two will work. If you use master and it doesn't work, use main. If you use main and it doesn't work, use master. So I'll just push it to the main branch instead of the master branch. So that way it is already, so my app is building. It is building. So as it is building, I also like us to check for something also. So back in my app, I'll come to activity. So in my activity tab, I also see there's also building here. Well, this build here is actually a good way to actually check if your app is building. So the best thing to do is just come to more and come to view logs. So this log is actually going to tell you all the information about your app that is building. So I also, as I'm building it in my text editor, I'm also tracking the logs also to see if there's any error, any build error. So if everything works fine, my app should be deployed. So here is the URL for my app. So I'll just copy this. So let me just wait for it to build. Once the build is done, and I'll copy that and we'll move on. So it is done. So one more thing you also need to actually notice is Okay, so it is done. So let's just check our build logs again just to see if okay, our logs are not actually out yet. So let's just wait for our logs to load. And we'll see if everything has gone fine. Okay, let's just check the activity tab back and check if the build is done. Okay, the build is done here, build successful. So I'll just simply copy that URI, which is this here. I'll just copy this and we'll visit this and see if our app has been deployed. Yes. So it has been deployed successfully to Heroku. So I have my app here, which is just basically this. Then I can do Superman again. So I'll come back to MongoDB just to be sure. I'll delete this off. So we don't have any collection, any documents in our collection. Our collection is free. Then I'll go back to my app, which is what I deployed here. So this is the URL for it. Now that I've deployed it, I'll just do Superman. Then I'll just do lorem ipsum. And I'll comment. So it has changed to lorem ipsum by Superman. So I'll go back to MongoDB and check it. So I'll just simply refresh this tab. So I'll just refresh. So once I refresh, if everything goes on fine, I should be having my document here. Oh yes, here it is. So that is basically how to deploy your Go and MongoDB app to Heroku. So if you found value in this particular video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and also leave a thumbs up if you like the video, and also share if you want to share. And if you have any suggestions or comments, drop in the comment section below. So the link to the description also to download and install Heroku CLI, download and install Git, create a MongoDB account, Atlas account, and also create an Heroku account to be in this video's description. So bye for now and see you in the next video.